participation as we present home back to Africa. Uh, okay, got it. That's the recording. But anyway, give thanks, and Brother Kaleshi Gwim will be coordinating the forum tonight, and we have a lot of wonderful things to share. So let's get started. I think next presenter is Mama McKinney.
To do libation, Baba.
Yes, she'll do the libation.
Okay, and I am here. Greetings, everyone. I'm sorry my video is off because I was driving and I'm not driving now. So I'll tell you what. Turn it on. All right, this is good. Nature is in the background, and what better thing to be there as we are giving thanks to our ancestors and to the Creator. And so I ask that you assume a position. This is not necessarily going to be a formal libation in the way that I might normally pour libation. But I ask that you position yourselves in a way that you are comfortable, however it is that you pray and give thanks. Kind of take a couple of deep breaths, deep breath in, so we can be very mindful and bring ourselves to this place. Let that deep breath out. Another deep breath in. And another, and blow it out. Deep breath in and blow it out. And as we are blowing it out, relax. We give thanks to the Creator of all things for allowing us to sit in communion with each other, in community and in communion with each other this evening. We give thanks for allowing us to get here safely. We ask that anyone else who is logging on gets to do that in a quick and safe manner. We give thanks to our ancestors on whose shoulders we stand, our family ancestors, our community ancestors, our national ancestors. We give thanks for you. For example, we give thanks to Nana John Henrik Clarke. We give thanks to Nana Ida B. Wells, Pacha. We give thanks to Nat Turner and Sojourner Truth. We give thanks to Mary McLeod Bethune. We give thanks to Yaa Asantewaa, Queen Mother Yaa Asantewaa. We give thanks to all of those warriors, those educators, whose names we will call and whose names we will not call this evening, but we give thanks for their example. We give thanks for their tenacity and integrity in researching information so that we can follow in their footsteps and ensure that our children and our children's children and our children's children's children for 9 generations know who they are and know who we are. We ask that you give us the words to share with you this evening, words that will encourage and inspire and motivate as well as teach. We say thank you for the experiences that we have had so that we can share with each other this evening. And with that, I will just ask that you, again, take another moment to take a deep breath and come back into the space. Adasi.
That's
Start this time, Mama. Bobby, Mama, you up?
What was that, Baba Kalesh?
I said, don't worry, I'll pick it up. Um, so let me go ahead and introduce the program. Welcome all of you.
Mhm.
This is, as Baba said earlier, this is an annual program we do as part of the UBC uh, forums throughout the year. And this is the 19th year that we're doing the Back to Africa Forum.
Mhm.
And, each forum that we have throughout the year has, it's a signature. This particular forum is really about making Africa real for those of us that are African centered. And that may seem like, well, of course, but one thing that I recognize is that for too many of us, there's still a a barrier of appreciation of all the nuances, complexities that is Africa. Um, for many of us, even in positive terms, Africa is still almost like a mythological place. For some, it may be a place where everything's terrible. For others, it's a place where everything's perfect, and it's neither of those things. And we as Africans who are African-centered need to not only live in the real world, but we need to have real connections with Africa. And through this particular series in the UBC forums, we hope to build those real connections. And fortunate for us in the DC metropolitan area, we have a lot of uh, members of our community who have been members of our community who have very strong ties to various places on the continent. And they are the connective tissue, right, that connects us across the Atlantic. This program, brings them to us so they can share those connections. And every year we focus on different aspects of that relationship, that relationship between those of us in the diaspora and the continent. Um, Today, we really wanted to focus on, first of all, some countries that we don't always talk about or hear about, um, especially in the Northeast. I mean, different parts of the country have different concentrations of different groups, but in this area, you probably hear a lot about the Akan community. I'm talking specifically within the Pan-African community, right? So this is already an internal of the internal, but you generally hear about Akan, you may hear Yoruba, so you may hear you know a little bit about Ghana in general, Nigeria in general, and a few other places. But there are other communities that we don't often hear about. Some of it is a language barriers, and some of it is not, right? It's just that this is where a lot of the culture that has been brought to America, um, either during the transatlantic slave trade or the transoceanic slave trade, the Ma'afa, or afterwards, right? Or as a result of other interactions. But it's important that we recognize how diverse and complex the continent is. Oftentimes, the term diversity, when it's used, especially in America, is oftentimes used to mean um, having some quote unquote people of color in the mix. It's like diversity means having some of us or folks close to us in the mix. So which is I always find to be an odd, very Eurocentric centered way of seeing the world, because there's enough diversity among Black people for us to have diversity without anybody else being there. That's how diverse we already are. We already multicultural, and we need to recognize that and not be apologetic about it. The way that political figures and corporations use diversity is really a way to manipulate the population. But in reality, I mean, if you have 100 Black people, you probably got enough diversity to have a whole encyclopedia. But we don't deal with the diversity among ourselves. But we have to recognize the complexity that we have in our community and definitely on the continent. So we hope to highlight some of that diversity today. You're going to hear from some members of our DC area Pan-African community who don't just have a passing relationship with certain maybe less talked about, less for lack of a better term, but literally less popular, right? Less populous, less commonly traveled parts of the continent. Still studying in West Africa because there's an aspect of the theme of this series is that we want to connect Africans on the continent with Africans that were taken away from the continent, right? And we know that a greater percentage, a larger proportion of our people were taken from that West African coast. So we do still concentrate there, but we're going to hear from folks who actually have those on the ground ties, and I think there's a wealth of knowledge to be gained from their experience, just their experience, how they got to where they are in those communities. And the audience will have an opportunity to ask questions, and this is really going to be a conversation at the end of the day, and that's what we want to have. If you paid attention to the flyer, and we have this phrase every year on the flyer. So part of the theme is that we need to change our relationship with the continent. It's a really simple concept, but we need to change the way we see our relationship with the continent. Africa is not a charity or a charity case. Oftentimes we see that as a favorable. I'm gonna mute somebody. Africa is not a charity case. It may seem like a favorable perspective to have. It really isn't. We need to connect in a way that maintains the humanity and integrity and sovereignty. And this is another word I will use of our brothers and sisters on the issue. I'm going to go ahead and mute. I'm not sure who might be having talk in their background. So anyway, that's the general theme of the program. So I think I probably shared enough about that. So I'm going to bring on one of our presenters. I'm going to have each of them share something, and then we'll bring everybody in and we'll have a discussion. So first, I'm going to bring up Brother Biko Sankofa. Brother Biko is, he's based in the DC area. He's been traveling to Sierra Leone for some time. He'll share his experiences with us on that. And he's busy. I don't know how I think there's two of them. I believe there's a clone of you. It has to be. We want to hear your story, and then we'll come back and allow others to share.
Well, hello everyone. Good evening. Talking about being busy. So I'm here in Washington, D.C. at my clinic. I'm a developmental psychologist by training. Here in D.C., we deal with severe depression with something called transcranial magnetic stimulation through Vital TMS. And when I'm not here dealing with patients with severe depression, suicidal ideation, I travel to Sierra Leone, where I've been for around 8 years back and forth. In Sierra Leone, I have a 25-acre development farm because we are still developing the capacity, and we have built out a number of different small scale projects. The interest for Exodus Trust Commodity Investment, which is the organization there, is to really speak to some of the community-based challenges that the people face within the city as well as in the village. I am in the village of Magbampo, which is Waterloo District. And in that area, we're pretty much off the grid. There's no water, there's no electricity. It's interesting that one of the farmers walking past my development asked one of my folks, it's like, we don't understand in the village how this man has lights and there's no noise. And the point was he was not familiar with solar energy. And usually if someone has lights, it's because there's a loud generator that's costly in regards to gasoline, which is about 30,000 leons a liter right now. So, but we're, over the years, we have put some few solar panels up to be able to have electricity on the compound. So the issue is village engagement, community engagement, building the capacity of some of the young people, which is our main interest, to build capacity to really become social entrepreneurs, to manage some of the challenges that they face in their village community, as well as the country as a whole. What are some of the key issues? As I've already indicated, electricity, energy, lack thereof, water, lack thereof, um, as as well as issues in regards to affordable housing, the lack of value-added food production, leading to post-harvest waste. So our main issue is really to speak to some of these challenges by working with young people to institute social entrepreneurship. And through our organization, SACRED, which is Sankofa Agribusiness Center for Research and Economic Development, SACRED, we are looking to really build the capacity of young folks and offer them vocational training, offer them carpentry shop skills, metal shop, welding skills, agribusiness in the form of value-added food production. And all of these is really to speak to some of the challenges that they're having. Right now, Sierra Leone as a whole is experiencing their crack epidemic in the form of something called Kush, which seems to be a marijuana-laced type of substance that the young people are becoming highly addicted to. And again, all of these because of the lack of upward mobility, capabilities, education, vocational training, and the like. So we're, really, looking to find more community support, international support, even folks who have interests and desires to come into our hub and to really assist some of the development efforts that's going there. There's a lot more to discuss. So any questions that anyone may have, please, let me know.
And I'll ask everyone, just save your questions to the end. You can put it in the chat actually. If you have them now, we'll deal with them at the end. But if you would rather ask your question, you can do that at the end as well. Thank you, Brother Biko. So I'm gonna call Mama McKinney. Are you ready? You good? I'm gonna have you share with us next. And Mama McKinney is, known to, I would say, everybody. And she has ties to a lot of different places on the continent. Obviously, Ghana and Senegal, but really it's her connection with Guinea that we're really focused on today, and you know the special relationships she has with the folks who are there. So I'm McKinney.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I'm ready to go. So greetings, everyone. So today, what I'd like to share is, I think, you know, why Africa appealed to me, and just what happened. I was a part of, I'll say, initially a study group that formed into a political party in New Jersey, in Trenton, New Jersey. We were we consider ourselves a political party similar to the All African People's Revolutionary Party because we were Nkrumahs. That was my first introduction to Africa. No, it wasn't my first introduction. It was a formal introduction. I'll put it that way. But from a very political perspective. And just from a point of study. I don't think any of us at that time had visited Africa, but we knew enough about our relationship to Africa to want to study it, to want to visit, to want to, and to learn to appreciate it through Nkrumah's eyes. And that was, I guess, in the early, mid-70s or so. So after just doing that, studying Kwanzaa and study, I had an opportunity to visit Senegal with Maribas Wiles, who was a dance instructor. So through African dance and cultural cultural traditions, we visited Senegal. And that was actually just before, a year before I moved to Washington, D.C. After coming to Washington, I was able to go back to Senegal and then go to Ghana for the first time in the early 90s. And then more recently, actually in the midst of the pandemic, we up and went to Guinea and felt safer there than here. So my first time to Guinea was in, let's see, 2020, 2021 went back, 2022 went back. Well, actually, the first time was in 2019, and then the pandemic, and then we went back. So Guinea, as we know, is a Francophone country in West Africa, the recipient of France's complete anger. One of the countries that is a recipient of France's anger, but Guinea really suffered because Sékou Touré felt that they needed to have their independence from Europe and build an interdependence with other African countries. And that was very much influenced by the way he connected with not only Nkrumah, but the other Pan-Africanists on the continent. And not only Kwame Nkrumah, but who else stayed in his country? Amilcar Cabral. And so my connection to Guinea is through my partner, who actually was a dancer and an acrobat with Joliba National Ballet, one of the three major African ballets that Sékou Touré formed, and he sent out into the world to share the culture of Guinea, thinking that culture is one way to build connections. And certainly that worked because so many of the performers came to the US, taught us here in the US in the dance community, and many stayed. Many also went back home. For those who stayed, we not only got to learn some language, but also dance traditions, drum traditions, and just general culture traditions. So I'm actually was a latecomer to Guinea in terms of my family because my son Mahiri, Baba Mahiri, a lot of people, some of you know who I'm talking about, was able to go back and forth to Guinea for almost 20 years before I decided to think about going. And what he found was the importance of living with the people, immersing yourselves in the culture, although he focused on drum and dance in particular. So my going, I didn't go as someone who wanted to learn dance. I didn't want to go as someone who wanted to drum. I went and stayed in villages. I pulled my own water, rushed to get water when it was running from the faucet that the whole community comes to. Definitely lived without electricity, and most often we did have a toilet, so we didn't have to go to what would be considered an outhouse, which I'm still familiar with from being a child in the US. However, it was flushable when there was water. And so I really got to, the other thing I think is important for me in Guinea is while they understand French, many African people do not speak or want to speak. Many of the people I lived around did not speak or nor did they want to speak French. They were very satisfied with speaking their traditional languages, and I was often admonished to learn their languages. And so I began to learn a little Susu. It's slow. It's a different language. It's difficult. French was easier only because I started learning it when I was much younger. So they respect that. However, life in Conakry, Guinea, is hard. It's a very overcrowded city. It's a city that has people coming from all over Guinea, and Guinea is a fairly large country. In Conakry, you will find that there are the Susu, the Manding, and Fula primarily. Some, as they call Fardis, people from the Fars, Baga, and other groups. But those are the three main people. And most of those people are there because they think that work is available and work is not available in their towns. I ran into people who want to come to the US who don't believe any of the stories that we tell them about the US. So I decided to, after the first time, to come back, take pictures of homeless people and share with them. And even though you share it, they don't actually believe it. Still can't be that bad. And so the people in Guinea, while they are poor, I definitely want to say this, while they are poor and while work is difficult, my recent trip was probably the most difficult just because of the condition of the electrical power. They had a major fire in the gas depot. There were gas lines. The electricity runs off of a pump that is run by gas, as it was explained to me. So the electricity is off for most of the day. They do leave it on for the night, which is good. But what I'm noticing, while those material things are difficult to come by, there's a spirit that has not been broken. And that spirit is people who maintain an understanding and practice of their culture, even in the midst of the Western culture being forced and imposed on them through TikTok, through IG, Facebook, YouTube. But their own culture is maintained, and you can see it. You look through and past the outer dressings, you can see and learn the culture by the rituals. For example, my partner's granddaughter's mother is Fula. And when she became, she was between 8 and 10, she went through the traditional Fula girl, it's a rites of passage. It's an initiation, but not as a teenager. It's her first initiation. And she went through that dressed in traditional costume, did traditional rituals, and they're also Muslim, but that Fula tradition was extremely important. I think this is maintaining their tradition is what helps them maintain their sanity in the midst of such poverty, in the midst of such crowdedness, in the midst of chaos. It seems almost chaos. Just driving in Conakry. Now, I can drive, though. I can drive in New York. That's a lot. I can drive in California, have done it. Where else is hard to drive in? I can drive pretty much almost anywhere in the US. I won't drive in Guinea because my road rage will come to the surface. It's like that. It's just that kind of, it's that kind of crowdedness. But that driving, those conditions tell you something else about what's happening with the people. For me, even though they are, steeped in their culture, when they are at their rituals or at parties or traditions, birthdays, whatever it is, births, funerals. Once there's something else about having to be first and having to be recognized that I think has something to do with the colonial situation as well as post-colonial situation, as well as that, as Brother Biko mentioned, is a lack of education and understanding. When you can have conversations with groups of people, you can help with that. But again, people will give you their shirt off their back, literally. Oh, I like that bag. Here, you want it? No, pay me what? No. And I'll say this in ending, and this may seem real basic, but what we put in our bodies determines how we function, not only psychologically, but how we move around, how we think, and our health. And I actually had to take a picture. I cut a grapefruit and took a picture of it because I wanted to show my students what a piece of fruit looks like with seeds. Think about it. That seems really small, doesn't it? But many of our children haven't seen fruit with seeds. So what are we eating? What are they putting into their bodies? What are we putting into our bodies? Eating collectively says something. They still do that very much so. While those things seem small and the material things, again, are few, I think it is our culture and the communal aspects of our culture that will help us get through to where we need to get through, to begin to build again. And I'm still going to say 100 years, y'all. We got some time that we're going to have to spend going back and forth to the continent. And that's not just for Guinea, spending time in Ghana, not just in Accra. You got to go to the villages, y'all. In Senegal, got a chance to travel to Tambacounda and go through the villages. Got a chance to go to Casamance region in the village. The cities are giving us one picture and one story. It's not complete at all because the majority of us are not in those cities. And I'll stop there.
Yeah, but Mama, Asante Sana for that. Thank you so much. Next up, we're gonna have, and again, if you have, and I'm sure you probably do have some questions. Mama McKinney, again, you can put that in the chat or hold off until the end. We'll entertain questions. So I'm gonna call our next guests, our next panelists. Baba Zanga and Mama Madonna Torre, their tag team. I'm not sure who's going to be talking. I'm guessing Mama Madonna, but we'll see. So you all are up. You share with us about the wonderful place called Côte d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast in the English tongue.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Jumbo.
I guess I can start with my first trip to the Ivory Coast. Of course, I'm married an Ivorian, and Many people seem to think that my interest in Africa has a lot to do with being, married to an African, but I think my husband can attest that that is very, very wrong. That is not accurate at all. I think I had a love for Africa from day one. I can't remember ever not being interested in Africa. As a matter of fact, how I met him, a friend of mine from the Ivory Coast introduced me to him. But before he introduced me to him, he was going home on vacation and hadn't been home for many years. And he asked me, "What do you want me to bring you back from Africa?" And I told him, "I only want you to bring me back one thing." He said, "Anything, what is it?" I said, "Some dirt. Some Mother Africa, that's what I need, that's what I want." He didn't bring it back. I was pissed at him and he laughed at me. He's like, ah. And later he tells people, "Well, I gave her my brother so, he could take her home and she could get her own dirt." But he still didn't understand how important that was to me. So when I go to the Ivory Coast, I go not as a person who is going to visit Africa. I go as a person who is going home, who is getting away from this foreign place that I was displaced in. And I don't know how that got in my spirit, but that's me. My first trip to the Ivory Coast, he hadn't been home in many, many years. And it was amazing. I don't speak any French. The whole family is always mad at me for it. But I can always find somebody to interpret for me. I'm trying to learn, but it's really, really, really difficult for my brain because I was never taught any languages in school. And my Detroit education, even in English, was not all that. So, and I also harbor some kind of resentment for having to learn yet another European language. So, but my first trip was fantastic. It was 3 weeks. I had to fight my bosses I had to fight them for almost 6 months, because I told them in 6 months I'm taking a trip to Africa and we only got 2 weeks vacation. That was the folks who had been there long enough to accumulate that much. And the doctors got 2 weeks too. And they told me that I was the first Black person they ever hired and didn't want to hire anymore. And they were all medical physicians. They're big shots, and they're like, "You want to take more vacation time than even we get? It ain't happening." Like, okay, all right. I'm taking my 3 weeks. So one held out. Is like one racist, like, "No, we can't let her do that. Can't." But 2 weeks before he gave in. And I kept telling Teray, "I don't care what they do. Either I'm going to come back and be working for them or I won't, but I'm going to Africa for 3 weeks and they are not going to dictate to me how long I'm going to be on this trip because it is that important." So I get to the Ivory Coast and my hand was held almost everywhere I went. I was treated like some very, very royal, precious, it was just incredible. The children, strangers, I can't tell you how many times people walked up to me speaking to me in different African dialects. And my family would laugh and tell them, she doesn't understand what you're saying. One time, I have to give you this story. We were in a hospital, and a lady, there's ladies will do this. If they have a baby tied on their back and they need to adjust, they can turn to a stranger, another female, and the body language is catch the baby. Well, this lady, turned and told me to catch the baby. And, she said it so fast, it was like Teray had to catch the baby. And he was apologizing for me, and like, I couldn't believe it. Like, thank you for being there. Thank you for rescuing me and rescuing that baby. But that's how much I didn't look like an outsider. I made sure that I didn't look like an outsider. I looked like I belonged there, and that's the way people treated me. And it's important that when the so-called African American goes to the continent, that they represent a child who's come back home. That's very, very important. You'll get one thing that you'll definitely be noticing is that there's a lot of white people worship. At least that's what I saw a lot of. Folks would chase white folks down. What can I do for you? How can I help you? And there's a whole lot of, I see so many of the things that we are afflicted with under this so-called white supremacy, white domination, and white manipulation that I see when I go home. But to me, there it's almost on steroids, because I think people take advantage of some, not being in the belly of the beast. You kind of are, people seem to be a lot more naive, or either a lot more tolerant. I really don't know how to size it up. But you'll see a lot of the same things, a lot of the same problems if you look deep enough. We tend to think that we're so different. Continental Africans are this way, and we are this, and we're even somebody different because we're a nation within a nation, and we're not African. It's all crazy to me. At the end of the day, I even tell some young people, continental Africans, I say, okay, if you have a child, you leave Africa, and you have a child in China, and that child marries a continental African in China, will their children now become Chinese and they're no longer African? Like, no. Your great-grandchildren aren't African, and how can you no longer be African? We're still going to be African. And we still have a lot of the same problems. They're just manifest differently. One example I'd like to share is the doll, the skin, the colorism problem. and to give you an example of how different it is, but it's the same and on steroids. So my first trip, I was amazed to see how it was around Christmas time. Christmas time is a big holiday for a lot of African countries, especially the Ivory Coast, a former French colony. And New Year's is an even bigger holiday. So everybody, if you're going home, you better be toting gifts, especially for children. This man didn't prepare me for the trip. I tried to find out what I needed to be carrying. I had to ask continental African ladies here, but nobody told me about this holiday thing, so I was not prepared. But I did notice flying Air Afrique that most of the people on the plane had these, if they had a doll, a lot of them had dolls, and every last one of those dolls were white dolls. Every last one of those dolls were blonde dolls with blue eyes. And a lot of them were big, so they were, in the overhead and I'm in the airport seeing all these dolls with these beautiful Black people, but all the dolls are white. And I was like, what is going on here? So when we finally got there, there's a lot of street vending, and you see folks, carrying this cheap Chinese crap to sell to folks so that they can have gifts, affordable gifts for the children. And they were all the same ugly, cheap, blonde, blue-eyed white doll. And in every household, and we visited at least 3 to 4 families, our families, 3 to 4 families a day, every day, sometimes 4. And the whole family, if there were any children, usually if there were little girls, they usually didn't have dolls, but if they did have a doll, it was that ugly, cheap, white, blue-eyed, blonde doll. And it was treasured. I mean, really, really treasured. So I'm looking at all this, and it is making me sick to my stomach, especially when the tradition is for New Year's Day. New Year's is like Easter, Christmas, and Halloween all rolled into one because the children are dressed up in their finest. They go from house to house, families and close friends, extended families, and they go there to show off their beautiful clothing, and they're expecting a gift everywhere they go. And I was really not happy that I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't have it. And if they've been given a gift that they have on their person, when they go to the next house, they go to each individual in the household and show off the doll. Just like when you walk in and you shake everybody's hand one by one, they stop and show you the doll, show you the doll, show you the doll, beaming. And I'm like, oh my God, this is making me sick. And I tried to have conversation, it was going nowhere. So I decided, you know what, when I go home, I'm going to be on a mission. I'm going to make sure that I collect as many Black dolls as I possibly can and get them in the hands of as many little African girls as I possibly can. Because the way that they're adoring these white, blue-eyed blonde dolls, and then the TV and the billboards and all this stuff is still consistent with, white women, white people are almost to be worshipped. So when I got back, I started collecting dolls. Secondhand, the dolls from my family that I still had around the house. Whenever I saw a doll on sale, I collected. I looked to find out how could I ship these. I found a company that shipped straight to the Ivory Coast, filled up a barrel, and sent it to one of my sisters and told her, hold it for me till I come on the next trip. And she did. But before, no, that's not initially what I told her to do. I told her that I wanted her to find somebody, because most of the dolls were naked. They were secondhand. I told her to find someone who could collect some fabric and collect some fabric and from the tailors, so that I could, dress them in African clothing and hold them for me. And years started passing, so I told her, no, I want you to get the dolls and, find somebody who might be able to dress them up and so that they can be distributed to children. She didn't do anything with them. She tried to find somebody who would hook them up so that they could be something that somebody could make money off of, making them into some type of, souvenir thing. And I told her, no, it was for the children to be played with. So I told her, just hold them until I get there and I'll take care of it. So I get there, more years have passed, and she told me she found nobody interested in these black dolls. I was shocked. So just before we got ready to leave, we were being told, just take them back. I'm like, take them back? No, I got to distribute these dolls. So I gave them to my teenage nieces. I said, you girls can dress some of them and sell some of them, but most of them, I want you to dress them in, African clothes. And they had all the fabric. They had everything that they needed, whole barrel of dolls, and give them out to children. Would ask them from time to time, how's it going? Nothing. How's it going? Nothing. How's it? Years pass. They were in a closet somewhere, locked away. I'm like, okay. I got frustrated. I said, okay. I asked the nephew to go and pick up the dolls. I told the girls, just give them up since you don't have any interest in distributing them. And got them sent to the village to extended family there, where there was a lot of girls, a lot of young adults and teenagers, and they were young folks who were constantly telling me, I want a cell phone, send me this, send me that. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to give you a way to make money. Dress up the dolls. They had a little storefront restaurant kind of thing in the neighborhood, in their, in their compound. And it's like, you can display, I'm thinking they can display some of the dolls, and as people come past, they would be in, they make a little money. I asked, okay, anything happen with that? Nothing. More years pass. So I come finally this last trip to ask, okay, so how did it go with the dolls? The mother said the oldest daughter took them all, and I don't know what she did with them. But she has two baby sisters, and every time I saw those little ones, they were playing with white dolls. White dolls. So I think the last day before we left the village, I got the big sister and all the other older girls and told them, got somebody to translate and reiterate, do not give your little sisters white dolls to play with. It is psychological damage. don't do it. Stop it. Don't do it. And I reiterated with the mother, the father, the aunties, everybody, and I made the little ones sing it. I made up a song in French and had the little girls singing it to the big girls. So we still got a lot of issues. And that's one that I've been struggling with, and I'm going to continue to struggle with it. They even have, my husband was telling me that he saw where he heard that people were making products to give to babies to bleach their skin. So, and I spend every chance I get in Africa and here in America, the darkest person I see, I tell them how beautiful they are, and especially the ladies. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to share. See the most beautiful people in the world in the Ivory Coast, and they are not convinced of their beauty.
Yeah, but Mama, thank you for sharing that. And you know, I think a lot of us can relate to that, especially on the continent. You know, well, obviously once you conquer the mind, you know, the body is the easy part. But that's why it's even more important that we create these connections. You know, I always give this analogy of when you're, I mean, okay, so I'll give my example. I was born on a continent, born in Nigeria. And, you know, when you are born on a continent, especially if you're living in a more rural area, even if you live in a city, depending on what country you're in, you generally don't actually ever see any white people. I mean, not in person. Magazine, television, but not in person. You never see one, can't touch one. They're essentially mythological creatures that you hear about, but you never see. But when you hear about them, it's always in a positive light. It's always an elevated light. It's always either associated with, well, usually associated with divinity. When you say, while you were talking, you said that it's almost like they worship them. There's no almost, they do. It's usually in the context of divinity. That's usually how most African people are introduced to white people, in the context of divinity. And then the next context is power, either political or economic or both. And, you know, when you're, of course, Black people all over the world deal with the system of white supremacy and encounter it. The difference is Africans on the continent don't get to have that white bum on the street ask them for $1. There is no juxtaposition. There's no context. All they have is a mythological creature that is a divine deity, definitely above them. Even if it's human, it's that kind of human, not our kind of human. And then, of course, the whole system that surrounds it. So everything from the white Jesuses and the white dolls and all that, you know, is you know, I mentioned the bleaching creams. But the key to breaking that psychological damage is to create real connections with Africans in the diaspora who can share that perspective. And I guarantee you, you may not see right now what the effects are of your corrections are, right? Or what your actions are in terms of direction, but the seeds have been laid and they will bear fruit. my wife is on. I remember the first time she went to Nigeria. She went to my village. Um, we normally wear traditional clothes anyway, so of course at home we're not gonna not wear it. So that's what she wore, lapas, what have you. And it wasn't what the young people were wearing. It wasn't what the folks who were around her age or younger were wearing. And when they saw her wearing traditional clothes every day, at some point they actually, asked her like why. Like they didn't understand. They were expecting her, she's, born in America, expecting her to come in some whatever, whatever. And here she is appreciating their clothes that they don't appreciate. And it didn't take long before some of my cousins were themselves, now they're wearing it, they're wearing traditional clothes they had in their closet forever. If it's good enough for her, it's good enough for us, I guess is the psychology. But the point is that it calls them to see themselves in a different light. And that's the benefit of the diaspora brings to the continent. I want to sort of bring everybody together. Do you all have any pictures or videos that you want to share before and maybe talk about? I don't know if Mama McKinney, I'll start with well, actually brother Biko was first. I know you shared a little bit about the community, the farm, and some of the connections. Did you have any video or pictures you want to share? And I'm going to ask the same with the other guests.
Well, I think it might be easier for if there's anything I sent you that you can kind of like, tap into, that'll be great.
Okay, I'll try to pull some of that up. Mama McKinney, you have anything you want to share? Videos or
I
pictures?
don't really, because I have to get them off my phone to get and send it to my email so you can see it. So that doesn't take too much.
Okay, and I think your Wi-Fi must not be good where you are because it breaks up a lot when you're trying to talk. I don't know if your location is,
Ah,
yeah, it's fluctuating a little bit. Let Baba Zanga, do you have any videos or pictures you want to share? And then after you all share the pictures, I'll share a couple of videos and pictures from Brother Biko. And Mama McKinney has something, and then I want to bring everybody in to sort of have a panel discussion, have some questions, or have y'all talk about. Some of y'all have already discussed some of them already. But let me see. Baba, you should have permission to share.
Okay. I'm Where is the share screen?
Yeah, you just select the screen that has the picture or video.
Yeah, it's a bunch of pictures that.
Okay, well, we can see your screen, so whichever one you want to share and talk about, you can do that.
Well, let me set it up in the slideshow. And I think I screwed it up.
Yeah, I think you deselected.
Yeah. Control A. Lower.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you want to just just share them one
They're
by
just
one. You
gonna
can do
be
that.
quick.
So those pictures were taken in the Assini area of Cote d'Ivoire in 2009.
Okay.
So gives you an idea of the coastline.
We're
Assini.
we're still seeing them in the thumbnail. Can you
Oh,
maybe?
you are?
Yeah, we're still seeing. So yeah, you have to
The
yeah.
slideshow is on.
Well, because you didn't share the slides, so you shared the
Ah,
yeah. So you have
oh,
to wait till the thing is up before you share. So now you gotta stop sharing, and then this time when you share, you select the slides.
okay. All right. I got the order. Let me minimize. Okay. So, ah, pause share, resume share. Okay. How's this?
You're still sharing this the thumbnail, so you
The
have to stop
thumbnail?
sharing. Yeah, you have to stop sharing
All right, stop.
completely.
All
Good. Now you can go back and when you share, you select the slideshow. You select the screen with the slideshow.
right. So is it see? Oh, do you see?
Yes, yes. We see the boat and the coast. Yeah, both.
Okay. So I think on that trip, Mama and our sister here went to the
Fishermen to get.
fisherman to get something for lunch.
And what city is this?
This is
Where is
in
this?
the Assini area of southwest Ivory, no, southeast Ivory Coast towards Ghana. Assini is not far from Ghana. So this is where those pictures were taken, and these were at the crocodile farm, and we also took one of the locals gave us a canoe tour, and these are some of the sceneries
Beautiful.
we saw around there. So this is one of my brothers of the whatever fish they were bought. That's
That's what you just saw.
and well, different things of Mama and some of the elders being turned into a Muslim woman. Um, this here is again in the fishing village. There were and sunset on the fishing village. That's the Atlantic that you're seeing here too. It's the Atlantic Ocean.
And there's some old slave dungeons, but they're kind of neglected and buried. So the history is kind of.
So this is a picture of this guy is. We went to the same high school, and present day he's a medical doctor, and he did something historic. These two. This is a surgeon, and this is it.
Anesthesiologist.
Okay, so this guy did the first liver transplant ever
in Africa.
In West Africa.
In
and that was during one of our trips this, and I wanted to pause and recognize that he's a very simple guy. As you can see, this is his wife.
But this is an example of the product of a village education. When people
Oh,
think, you know,
this I have to, I screwed up.
you'll see another one.
No,
Oh,
I screwed up. Well, the Jamaican ackee, this is the tree, and the red balls here
no, it's the
are
fruit.
is the fruit. It grows all over in my village. First time I saw Jamaican ackee, I was like, what?
And that's the Jamaican national dish.
Right. And I was gonna say,
It's
is the
indigenous
origin
to Africa.
is the origin Jamaica or is the origin?
No,
No,
Africa.
it's West Africa.
How did you get the name Jamaica?
It was brought there.
With us.
Oh, okay.
I went too far back. Let me see if I can accelerate this back.
I mean, Africa has so much biodiversity that oftentimes it's more convenient, maybe easier, maybe for a lot of different reasons. Things get identified based on where they're unique, because we have so much diversity that you have things that are, you know, a distinct somewhere else, even though the origins are in Africa. They're known for the places where they're distinct because we have so much. I mean, that's in the flora, in the fruits, in the foods, even in the people. I'll give one example, which is close to me. You know, people generally associate, you know, sort of squinty, slanty eyes with being Asian, Chinese. But those are actually African traits. We know that because we know the oldest people in on the planet have eyes just like that, and they're in Africa, including people like my father and to some extent myself. But my father, you know, he really, you know, if you looked at him, you think, you know, he was, you know, maybe from Indonesia or something like that, just by his eyes. But it's just an African trait. It's like our cheekbones. But we have such diversity among us. All Africans don't have eyes like that, so you don't associate that with Africans. But then you have a place where all the folks do. But of course, that genealogy comes from Africa, and it's another example of how diverse we are. You know, and then you know, so another part of the world gets credit for something that we have always had.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyway, I think I screwed up the slideshow. We can let somebody else.
I think we saw. I think we might have seen most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can stop sharing. Brother Biko, what I can do is I can share the picture of Freetown. You can was that picture taken in Sierra Leone?
Yes.
Okay, let me share that picture. You can tell us what that is, what that's about.
Let me know instead of trying to move.
Yeah. Let's see. No way.
So this right here is a group of young folks with a community-based organization by the name of Safe Place. And they're really working hard to address the Kush issue that's facing a lot of the young people there. But oftentimes, these young individuals, in spite of their grand efforts, do not have a psychologist like myself, you know, collaborating with them to really speak about what are some of the underlying issues that the youths are facing, why they may turn to Kush. So I did a presentation with them at a conference, and then afterwards, I just noticed that they really needed themselves capacity building efforts. So I did a Sankofa Life Path Development workshop with them to speak about becoming psychosocial coaches. It was just, an initial introduction to some of the tenets in regards to my model. But we have kept in contact, and as I go back and forth, I will be working with them to really not just disseminate information, because that's great to disseminate the information, but what we need is practical tools that are operationalized in the community to really make some type of a tangible shift or difference. So this is just some of these young people there in regards to this particular picture.
Hey, bro. So I'm gonna share a video with the cocoa. Hopefully this plays. Let me see how that goes. The cocoa farming. Video. The issue of of illicit drug use on the continent is something that we don't often talk about. And different countries and different regions have different issues. And oftentimes it's whatever can be made locally. And economic desperation often leads to many of these things, but it's also sometimes they're funded, promoted by local forces, or I should say local entities that seek to utilize I'll say mindless youth, or utilize pliable youth who will provide it's almost like you're priming them to use them for something they want to use them for, while they're making them useless for themselves. In Nigeria, we actually we're having a problem with meth, which Nigerian meth, but it's really it's the same dynamics. But it's important to address and to equip local people, local practitioners with how to really confront some of these issues that are really strange, foreign. Just trying to figure out what is this even coming from, and it's hard to tackle if you can't really appreciate what it is, because it is so strange, but it's become all too common. Can you see the video?
Okay, so
You
here,
want me to play it first, or you want to talk?
no, well, you can play it, I can talk while it's being played.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, if that's possible. So, one of the things that, we do here, it's this rural village where a lot of the individuals here, this is how they transport the cocoa, because the roads are so bad, so dilapidated, that they have to transport the cocoa on bikes, and here is just a stock that's being grown. Right here is a nursery. This is how they dry the cocoa. And one of the key issues that this village really was facing was the dilapidation of this slab of concrete that they grew, that they dry the cocoa. Here is an example of how they dry the cocoa just on a street pavement, sort of a thing. So it's a situation where these cocoa farmers, and they also grow coffee as well, need assistance. Number one, to get their commodity out. Two, this right here is a very challenging ride to get into this rural village, where you have a number of different farmers growing cocoa. Yet their challenge is really how to get it out to the market. And this is the issue with Africa, and this is my interest is, in value-added food production, and to really work with the young people to make them understand that within their community, they can become multimillionaires. If you can figure out, yes, there's a challenge, there's a crisis. If you can figure out the transportation issue, working with these rural plantation owners to get the coffee out to Freetown, coffee, cocoa is a multi-million dollar, international trade commodity. So it's not that Africa doesn't have these commodities, but oftentimes they don't have the capacity to process them, to brand and package them, and sometimes the knowledge to meet the logistical requirements to have it shipped out. If the containers have fruit flies, if they have some sort of a bug, you can't take it to the next plane ride over to Europe. Yet Europe wants the bananas, wants the mangoes. So my interest is to really, build this business incubation opportunities with young people to show them that within their community they have the opportunity to add value
And
rather
Bob,
than.
can you tell us about this bridge right here?
So this right here is just a piece of a tree that's been pretty much sliced in half and pretty much laid there by the villagers as a makeshift bridge to walk across. And a vehicle can actually drive, very cautiously drive across that bridge to pretty much get, to the other side. I mean, there's ingenuity. You have to be very careful, but this is where you just use the natural resources from the community, to create a bridge.
Is
Uh,
that the only way over that particular stream? Is that the
yeah,
only way to get into that community from the?
yes, yes. Other than that, is just pretty much bush and forage, forest. It may be another way, but we didn't take it, and it wasn't any way for us to find a other way. That was the quickest and easiest way. We walked over, um, to go to the plantation of one of the farmers there. And as I was saying, so they'll have a slab of concrete, that slab there, but it's dilapidated, it's falling apart. And all they needed was someone to come in and just, repave it, basically repave it. But this is how they dry the cacao, the cocoa. Obviously, it has to have a certain type of a fermentation and a degree of drying before you can bag it. And as you can see on the bike there, transport it out. So I think this is coffee. Um, and again, within that village right there, if someone was to come in and partner with them, you're talking about at least hundreds of thousands of dollars in regards to a commodity that could be moved out of that community. What is the biggest issue? Gold is another um, commodity that they showed me in regards to what some of the local people mine, and that's through just, river mining. They might have gold there in some of these villages. Now, it's rather difficult for them to get to Freetown. This might have been a full day ride, and I had to stay in the village overnight because we really couldn't make it back out that night. It wasn't something I had planned, but they really accommodated us, put me aside in someone's room, and then the next morning we had breakfast and we headed out. Gold is something that they offered me, and I said, well, I'm not interested in gold right now. But again, Africa, in spite of the fact you would see tatted mud huts, sometimes you're standing on gold, sometimes you're standing on diamonds. Sometimes you're standing on a food commodity that's worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars in regards to international trade. So again, this right here in the this right here is where when you get it out of the village, this would be some type of a broker who collects the bags and pretty much store them for a trip into Freetown. And oftentimes it's the Lebanese who are pretty much brokering with the locals for pretty much next to nothing. They take it into Freetown. They have the four-wheel drive to get into the rural areas. They take it into Freetown. They package it, they bag it in a way that meets export standards and make, I mean, millions, over the years. So, so what we're looking to do is really just build that capacity with young people who oftentimes say, well, Doc, I want to go to America. I want to go and study overseas. I was like, I understand. But that's going to be rather difficult. For you to get into an American university, you have to show the first year tuition and ability to, to cover your cost. This right here is moringa. I have hundreds of moringa trees on my 25-acre, and we just went through a little process in here. It's right here. It's SOW Farm. I collected number of bags of my, moringa leaves and took it to a local factory to have them processed into moringa tea, which the good Baba here is selling at his co-op and so on. So we're in the community, working with local villagers and stakeholders. We're just really inching along, trying to really build more capacity for these young folks, to show them that they can really take something like moringa, which has a lot of nutritional value. If you know moringa, the leaves, the bark, the flower, the roots, everything with the moringa tree has nutritional content, and has value. And interestingly enough, when I first started going to Sierra Leone some years back, I was looking at what to do, how to get involved as an entrepreneur, but also as a social entrepreneur, trying to also answer a situation. And then, my son, he's came down with type 1 diabetes, which was a total shock to us. And I scoured asking friends and everyone, within my network, what can I do to really help balance his blood sugar level? And neem and moringa kept on coming up. Neem, and you say, do you know of moringa? Do you know of neem? I said, not really. And then I remembered going to the local agricultural university called Jala University, and they showed me this tree, and they said, this tree right here is a miracle tree. It can cure almost any disease. And they were speaking of the neem. And then they also talked about, the moringa. So I readdressed everything on the land, and started to focus on these trees that can be turned into a natural organic medicinal product, based on my son. And I learned how to grow it and to prune it, to hang dry it at first, package it, bring it back over, and it was easy to turn those leaves into into tea leaves, as you can see there. But you can actually eat the leaves. You can eat the seeds. The seeds has a type of a sweet, a sweet taste to it, aftertaste to it. And one time I was talking to some folks, they said, one thing they don't have here in America is moringa sugar. I said, what? He said, yeah, moringa sugar. You can take the seeds and grind the moringa seeds. And I said, that makes sense, because when you taste the moringa seeds, it has this sweet aftertaste. But in India, they're producing moringa sugar. And so he was like, hey, if you have moringa trees, that's another commodity you can pretty much value add. Haven't gotten there as yet, but as you can see here, we are producing the moringa leaves into moringa tea. So there's a lot of ways that these young people can value add mangoes into mango concentrate, mangoes into mango puree, pulp. Oftentimes the mango might be falling on the ground. So what we're talking about is millions of dollars in post-harvest waste, because young folks are not equipped with equipment to process the mango into mango concentrate, to process the pineapple, the papaya, to create trail mix by dehydration of fruits. Yet, they're experiencing post-harvest waste in the millions, not millions of leons, but millions of US dollars. And, again, when I get in the country, I speak to the Minister of Trade. Sir, what's going on? He said, Doc, you will never be able to process all the mango juice that I still import in, all of the mango juice, orange juice that I still import in, the tomato paste that I still import in. And I said, well, why not? You have tomatoes here. Why not create tomato paste, tomato ketchup for yourself? He said, machinery. We don't have the machinery. So he has a budget where he still has to import for his people a certain amount of products. He said, in the last conversation, it was close to $1 billion in regards to a deficit in regards to him not able to ship out certain things that his Europe partners are asking for because he cannot, he can't get his farmers to meet the regulations. He would say, that plane that you came in on is great that you came in at the top, but I'm concerned about the belly of the plane because in the belly of the plane, I don't have anything going out. Or if I do have anything going out, it's not meeting the demands of Europe, which is the next plane over. I don't have to catch that second plane that you catch to go back to DC. I just have to meet the plane, the demand of France, which is a next stop over, Belgium, a next stop over, England, and the likes. So there's a lot that not just Sierra Leone, which is considered to be like the third hungriest country in Africa. But it's not just Sierra Leone. Throughout Africa, as you all can attest to, there's a lot of post-harvest waste because of the lack of value-added food production. So that's one of the things that we're looking to really address in regards to our efforts there on the ground.
Yeah, bro, and as Baba said, you can buy this this fresh. You've seen it grown. You've seen where it's grown. You can buy this fresh moringa tea at the co-op tomorrow. So
Y'all have some tomorrow?
yeah, bro, we carry it and we have some. So you
Okay.
come tomorrow and get that fresh moringa grown on the continent. With all the potency and power to it. So Sana Baba for that. So I'm gonna
Baba Sankofa, we need more.
we need more. Okay, yeah, but I mean, and they're actually very popular.
No problem.
Yeah, it is.
They're actually
We
very
need
popular.
more.
Yeah.
Whatever you brought last time was almost half of it was gone when you turned around.
All right, I'll get some more for you guys.
Yeah, but you can get some more tomorrow. I think you're right, Bob, because I remember I was like, "Where's all the tea?" He was like, "Half of it's gone already." So it really is popular. But yeah, I mean, literally, this is farm to table for our community. And
Yeah, I like the tea too, Bob. I love the tea, man. But I came down one time and didn't have any, but you're gonna have some tomorrow. Okay.
yeah, bro, we brought some last co-op. We still got some boxes left, but we definitely need to re-up. We may not have enough for tomorrow, but if you come in time, we'll have it. So I'm gonna pull all the panelists in and ask some questions and have the
So,
guests ask questions as well.
Baba Kalechi,
Go ahead, Mo.
I have a question for the Biko. Are you familiar with moringa honey?
I've heard of it. And another exciting exotic product by putting the beehives, around the trees especially when it's the flowers are blooming.
I think I found it in Ghana when I was in the grocery store just looking for honey. I haven't seen it any place except in a grocery store. And it's a small container. to order it online, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Or you can only order it if you are in Europe, so it's not available to the US. And that definitely, even if you can find a way to connect with whomever makes it, I'm sure there would end up being a market for it here. I appreciate your conversation, you're sharing about how difficult it is to get food out that's grown, because there are few to no factories, and there's no machinery. But I think not but where am I thinking about, Baba Kalechi? Oh darn it! The where name is not even close to where I'm thinking about, where they're building their own machinery, and
Shanghai
everything.
Center,
Sorry,
The
Shanghai Center in Benin.
Shanghai Center.
in Benin.
Yeah.
Shanghai Center.
Right, the Shanghai Center in Benin is probably something. Have you considered duplicating the Shanghai Center in Sierra Leone?
Yes, I have. I've looked at them, and you know, he's been at it for what, 25, maybe 30 years. You know, so I did look at, you know, when I was looking at Sierra Leone, when I was looking at this land, I did a, you know, a brief look at the work there, and yes.
Did you travel to see? You went to Shanghai, right? Or did you?
Sorry?
Did you travel? Did you travel there to Shanghai?
No. I didn't travel there. And you know, I was just reading, you know, what it took for him to get to 30 years. And I'm just, you know, you know, the farm was bought probably about 4 years ago. And then during the COVID, when everything has shut down, and I was communicating with the folks on the ground, they're like, you know, in the village, everything is as normal. You know, no one was really talking about masks and all of that. It's like, you know, Doc, why don't you do something with the land? And he said, you know, I got a kid who can clear some of the land and plant cucumbers. And I said, sure, you know, I send them some dollars, and they did a little pilot cucumber you know, garden that produced, I mean, so much cucumber. It was, cucumber is something that can be produced very easily, you know, within that vine, that crawling vine. And the soil was just, you know, so beautiful in regards to the overall production. So, you know, I've looked at something like that. But myself, you know, being here in the US, running over there, like, you know, every 3 months, you know, spending a month there on the ground, I make a step or two forward. As soon as I leave, get on a plane, I step backwards in regard, you know, folks having the same mindset, you know, get up every single day in the morning. Hey guys, let's do this. No. Why are you guys doing that? You know, to when you leave, you know, folks have earnest intentions, but sometimes they don't have the operational discipline to really put things into place. It's a good to have the conceptual desire, but you have to have the practical tool for implementation. And,
Yes.
you know, it's one of the things when I get there. So, oh, this is Sierra Leone. I was like, you know, I want you all to stop telling me that, because I'm not going to spend so many years educating myself to do things a certain way. And then when I get here, I do believe in indigenous knowledge. I do believe in cross-cultural psychology, and I do believe in respect in the way that you do things. So there's a merger in regards to what I bring, and there's a respect for what you all have developed over hundreds and thousands of years. So let's bring that together. But don't ask me to totally disband, you know, proper accountability and say, "Oh, where's the money? Where did it go? Let me see a receipt." Uh, no, the principles of accounting are going to be, you know, applied here. And this right here is, you know, the moringa trees really cover this area right now, but this right here is about 4 acres. It's 25 acres. There's more land on the other side, but this right here is the land there on SOW Farm. So, you know, when I'm there, I can pretty much execute some of the objectives. When I'm gone, it's rather difficult. Finding
Yeah.
folks who, especially from the village, they see you as sometimes, unfortunately, someone to really take advantage of.
Oh, yeah.
And I say, look, I look like you guys, you know. Um, I was born Dean Martin from the Caribbean, from Trinidad, came to the United States in the 70s. I got a lot of help. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Oh, you know. So I knew that when I changed my name to Biko Sankofa, you know, I'm the only boy in, you know, for my father. So when my mom, West Indian Caribbean mother's like, why did you do that? I was like, because you know, I look African. I don't look European. Why you guys name me Dean Martin? I see, but you know, that's what they aspire to, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I say to them, I said, look, I look like you guys, you know. Um, I am not someone coming here to try to take advantage of you all, but I do want you all to collaborate with me and partner with me in a way that makes sense. And I'm going to apply the principles of accounting because, you know, I need transparency to know how you know that the money that was put into this project is going to produce, you know, the results because I'm creating a incubation hub where others can land, learn from my mistakes, don't lose money the way that I did these first few years because that's going to turn people away. But if they have a hub to land on, that 25 acres turn into an industrial, you know, complex like you talked about in Benin. Yes, you know, people land there, want to do social entrepreneurship. I've already made the trip into the cocoa plantation. I've already made the trip into the diamond and gold mines. I've already made, you know, the trip into the local manufacturer who's manufacturing some of these machines for value-added food production. I've already gone to the government. I've already gone to the university. Students are looking at 50% unemployment. They don't have internships. They don't have postgraduate opportunities, but they are the next generation of agriculturalists, agronomists who really don't have small business association, don't have these means to really exercise some of their brilliance. So, you know, I'll ask them to give me a 5-pager on how would you take a raw product and turn it into a refined product. How would you use your agricultural knowledge and how would you partner with the local villagers with their indigenous knowledge to take the mango, turn it into sliced mango, dry it, package it, brand it, and meet, you know, I'll bring in folks where you could meet the qualifications to get it into Europe, which might be different than getting it into Amsterdam, different in regards to getting it into Paris. But these are what these young people need. And when they don't have it, they look to Kush or other type of self-medication, early sexual initiations, um, and the likes. So yeah, I would love to be able to do Songhai. I would love to be able to do it, but by myself, limited resources, it makes it rather challenging. But I got 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily suggest trying to replicate Songhai, but I think that if you can, carve out some time to visit, there's a lot there. It's a lot. And a lot of what you're already doing, you could learn new techniques or new ways to do them. I mean, everything from recycling to equipment manufacture to crop production is a lot. I mean, it somehow is really a university, and you can literally take classes there and get certificates on, snail farming, whatever it is. So I would recommend actually visiting somehow. I think with what you're already doing, with the land that you already have with the farm, and there's no getting around being on the ground. I mean, it can be expensive to try to get around it. And that's the case regardless of what you're doing on the continent, because of the dynamics that exist between those in diaspora and those in the continent. and you said, you may not have said it in these words, but you said something along the lines of they may feel as if it's their role to take advantage of you, and there's some truth to that. There is an understanding of that relationship where I think sometimes when you get on the plane, people consider the probability you don't come back. So what you left behind is not as much yours as it used to be when you were there. And it's not out of animus. It's just a recognition of the dynamics. And obviously, the more you're there, and the type of relationships you build over time, and unique individuals that you find can change some of that. But there really is no getting around being on the ground. I mean, from my own experience, I can definitely relate to that. But I want to pull us back and sort of talk about your personal experiences in terms of those relationships, because all these activities, these connections, these enterprises, this effort, there's a story there. So I want to get a little bit into that story. And before I do we have any questions from the audience? If anybody has a question, you can raise your electronic hand or put it in the chat, and I'll address it. So
I don't have my electronic hand up, but I got my hand up.
Yeah, but Bob, we got you.
I got 2 questions and a quick comment. Well, to Brother Biko, have you tried to export the products to within the continent itself instead of going to Europe? Because got to have a lot of restrictions and things and not codes, but the situation there, you have to have it done a certain way. But have you tried that? And to Mama Madonna, I want to say that the white dolls, as a child growing up, I can remember all the girls in my neighborhood in Southeast DC, that's all they had. I'm talking about growing up in the 1950s, in the 60s, early 60s. But it wasn't until, I'm going to tell you, God is my witness, it wasn't until the Black Power movement came around in the 1960s and the early 70s that we began to embrace Black dolls. I remember that vividly, So I don't know if there may have to be a movement in Sierra Ivory Coast to make that happen. I can even also remember back in the day going to church in the 50s and the 60s, and every church you go to, almost every family had a white Jesus in their house. But it wasn't until the Black Power movement came along that a lot of our people embraced that we shed all that. We got rid of all that white Jesus. But I was not surprised, but I was told that it was you find a lot of white Jesus in Ghana. When we went there, Galatia, in 2019, we saw remnants of that. We even saw Santa Claus and all that stuff. I said, good gracious, man, is this real? But there needs to be some type of movement to get rid of that craziness there. So that's my comment. But the question to Baba Biko about importing or exporting to other African countries.
Well,
and one other question, you mentioned about your vocational program. Could you tell us a little bit about, you said carpentry and welding? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, first in regards to the the cross borders, from Freetown to, let's say, Kano. Kano is at the northern part of Sierra Leone, where a lot of the diamond mining was done before the war. It even had an airport where folks would actually fly in. And I say that because if you if you're in Freetown and you're driving, it's like from DC to New York, and you're driving up to, and the road has gotten much better than how it was when I first got there. Um, you're going to be stopped by a number of different border patrols, and it's going to be, some fraction of the army. Some of them may have guns, and they're going to stop you and check for any type of contraband. Remember, I don't know why, the war has been over since what, I guess the late 80s and so on. But they'll stop you and they'll sometimes tell you get out of the car and check the car and so on and so. That's just within Sierra Leone, just going up to Kano, which will take you about 5 hours or so. Much less to cross over into Guinea. Um, it's it's again, from being on the ground concretely and doing things and moving around and being and interacting with folks over the many years, you come to realize that we shoot ourselves in the foot. Um, Before I get out of, if I had a truckload of my Moringa whatever products moving out, they like, oh, you come here to make money, so we need to make money off of you.
Got to pay a little tax. Huh?
The average police officer might get paid um, 1 million leons. 100 US dollars is about 2 million, let's say 2 million leons. And so let's say an average police officer might be making, let's say 2 million leons, $100
A month.
a month, which puts them in a position to eke out a semblance of their living off of the people.
I understand. Yeah.
And so by stopping you is for you to just give them something so you can just go on your way. If you refuse, you're going to sit there for maybe an hour as they, okay, I'm going to come to you and keep you there while, while they
I understand.
while
Yeah.
they checking this, that, and the other. So my point is in regards to, we can leave from New York City, drive all the way down to Florida in the United States and pass how many states along the way. But just to go from Sierra Leone to Guinea or Sierra Leone to Liberia, and even if you don't have anything on you, you're going to pay something.
I
Yeah.
got you.
So that's one of the key reasons. Now, again, optimism must strive here and we all wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have a type of long-term, passion for what we're doing and believing that the paradigm is going to shift somewhere along the line. And there are multiple ways to get to the same location. So obviously you can ship things through, you can fly things through, but it's going to be expensive. And when you add that per box, within the continent, some folks who are having a hard time making $5 a day are not going to be able to pay for it. It makes the most sense to make it for $1 there and sell it for $2 over here, just to stay alive. But if you try to do it in country, you can, and of course, there's a certain percentage of your inventory which you will, but it's with the understanding that you're just doing that out of labor of love.
I see.
Yeah.
And a vocational center, you said welding and carpentry. How is that going on?
Right. So, so one of the things, so Sacred Sankofa Agribusiness Center for Research and Economic Development, we're developing a community-based organization in the next month, and the objective is to really provide those vocational training opportunities for the youth. A lot of them do not have the ability to go to college. Those who go to college are part of a certain fraction of the population, let's be honest, who parents can afford for them not to be in the fields, not to be on the streets selling chiclets, and to be able to have the luxury to go to a university. So the larger population of youths are going to be, just milling around. Now they do have many different vocational training programs in Sierra Leone. It's not anything new. But what I want to do before you really get into the carpentry and the welding and the bakery, which I'm finishing up my village bakery this month. You have to go through Sankofa Life Path Development training because it's the mindset. Above any and everything else is the mindset. I can teach you about carpentry, bring in a carpenter, pay them, teach them about welding and carpentry and so on and so forth. But the mindset is what builds a nation or tears it down. And oftentimes, as you talked about, the white dolls and the likes, we are still buying into a perception that's not of abundance, but of scarcity. We're buying into the illusion of what we see in spite of the fact of mango trees that's producing thousands of mangoes. We are still looking to America and the cold rather than harmonizing with the warmth and the heat of where we come from. So there is still a mindset that even if you do open them up to vocational training opportunities, they're still bringing a lack and scarcity mindset. And, the vibration of abundance means you must think abundantly before you manifest abundance. And so the whole point of my program is to really let them know, who they are and how within their socio-economical environment, socio-ecological environment, contains the richness of the universe. They have to use their brilliance, their innovation to really just figure out a way. People processed hundreds of years ago. They processed without machines. It's not anything new. If we have the machines, that's beautiful. But if we don't have the machines, we still can process the fruits and the raw, resources. It's about the mindset.
Yes. Okay. Thanks so much.
So I understand, Baba.
Baba Imamu, to your
Yes.
comment, the subsequent trips, we started seeing a lot more black dolls in the supermarkets.
Oh, great.
My
Specialty.
theory is that it started with the people in the diaspora and making it happen. I even have a nephew who lives in Italy who bought a black doll in Cote d'Ivoire and took it to his daughter.
Good news. Good news.
So the revolution you mentioned, I think, has started.
Right. We're in the middle of it, Baba. It's already happening.
Okay.
And this conversation is part of it. I mean, it takes and it has taken and it will take the diaspora and the perspective it brings to bring about that change. And that change is already happening. It's happening in every country, different capacities. Some countries are more porous than others. Sierra Leone is more porous to Nigeria in terms of everything, right? But there's still that that blending and that interaction and that changing of mindset is we're in the middle of it. We are actually in the middle of a revolution, but because we're too busy in the revolution, we're not even always appreciating what's happening. The truth is, no matter what the powers that be may intend, the rise of the African continent is inevitable. In other words,
Oh, yeah.
just by sheer numbers, in 100 years. I know 100 years is a long ways, but it's not that long. It's long for us. But in 100 years, Nigeria is slated to be the most populous country in the world.
With a median age of what?
About 26. I mean, in the world.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, right now Nigeria is third. No, it's fourth behind behind the United States. But Nigeria is set to surpass the United States by 1950. By 2050, it's
Yeah.
set to become third. We know that India has surpassed China.
Yes.
So now it's China, sorry, it's India, China, US, and Nigeria. In 25 years, it's set to be India, China, Nigeria, and the United States. In 100 years, Nigeria is projected to have a greater population than not even talking about China anymore, because India's already past China. And that's just one country. So the influence of the continent is inescapable. The question is, how do we interact with that reality, and what role can we play? And we are already playing that role, because the cat's out of the bag. There was a long time ago where you could tell your average Black person. And I know there's a lot of Black folks who still feel as if they're in the diaspora, who feel as if they have absolutely nothing to do with Africa. There are those, but there are fewer and fewer of them, especially to the extreme. More and more so, there's at least a recognition of that connection, and more so, there's a desire to go there. African ancestry is a booming business. People are more and more looking for that, because if they're realizing when they're reading the tea leaves, no pun intended, Brother Biko, about what's going on in the United States, and they're seeing the decline of the economy and the political system, the social structure, and what have you, and they're looking for somewhere else, and more we are looking to the continent. So we're in the middle of that revolution, but because we're in the middle of it, and it's not a coincidence that there are also some significant changes that are happening on the continent, especially when you're looking at countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot going on, and it may just seem like a whole lot, but believe me, it's all leading to that one thing where we need to prepare ourselves, and the work that everybody here is doing is part of that work. It's part of that preparation, because it's going to come, and truth is, the planet needs us to stand up. It's not about saving Africa. It's about saving the planet. I mean, it's that simple. If we don't prepare ourselves, the planet is in jeopardy. For folks who don't even think about Africa. So we're right in the middle of that revolution. So
Mama Ture, you and Baba planted seeds. You haven't seen the seeds grow, I guess, but I guess you have with what Baba just said. So it's going to take some time the seeds to grow.
And
So-
I want to be able to say that I didn't share that the children want the black dolls. The children want the black dolls. I have parents who some who saw me on the last trip, and my husband said she remembers you. She said, "Did you bring the dolls?" She said it in African dialect. I didn't know what she was saying, but she's like, "You got some dolls this time?" And the children want the dolls. And when I was growing up, I never had a black doll. I know exactly what you're talking about. But we wanted black dolls. We didn't have a choice. And now what amazed me was that the choices that the adults were making, buying dolls when they had the opportunity to get black dolls and take them to Africa, they were picking the white ones. The ones in Africa are most of them, and now it's like maybe about 1 or 2% that you can find in the specialty stores, but the majority are still the white, the same cheap doll on the street. But the children aren't given choices, and by the time they have a choice, that psychological damage has been done, and now they're the parents who are going to look for the white doll. And so we got to break that cycle. At least that's what I think.
That I saw in Guinea, this time around that I didn't see 3 years ago was more Black dolls. I went to a festival where they called it a festival similar to fairs here. And almost everybody who was selling trinkets, I'll call them trinkets, little toys, games, and dolls, sold white dolls. And so I asked, or I had somebody ask one of the vendors, why don't you have Black dolls? And she said, I've never seen a Black doll. I said, how old? She said that she was between 18 and 20, if I recall. She had never seen a Black doll. That was 3 years. This year, I didn't go to that same festival because they have it every year. I didn't go to it because we weren't in Guinea yet. But I did notice in one store in a neighborhood that I frequented, there were two white dolls and one Black doll hanging up. So I think I did see that difference in Guinea. And I had to have conversations with people asking, can you bring this? Can you bring that? And so my daughter-in-law asked me to bring her some weave and some hair. I told her, I don't do that. I'm sorry. You can ask me to bring anything else, but I'm not bringing weave. I don't do that. And so just, finding a way. She didn't necessarily want it to wear, but she knew she could make money selling it. So finding a way to accommodate their economic needs, their impoverishment, is really important. And remembering that these people who are cash poor, and what do cash poor people anywhere in the world do? Their emphasis is on survival. And of course, it should be on survival. Because if they don't know where the next meal is coming from or how they're going to feed their children, then what? And so whatever we can do to find a way to make money, or whatever we can do to make ourselves look good in the moment, for the moment, is what's happening. So for me, I agree, Kelechi, that change is happening, and it's happening on such a minute level that we might not be able to see it. And so we have to keep coming back, and keep doing what we're doing. One of the things I learned from my son, Diallo in Ghana, who's also had investigated cocoa farming. And going into parentheses, one of the things he said was that he can't get villagers to become or get interested in cocoa farming because cocoa farming was used as punishment for children when they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. They were sent to the farm to work. Now trying to get these young adults who were punished farming cocoa to do it as an entrepreneur is very, very difficult because of mindset. Mindset plays across the board and everything. We're dealing with mindset here. We're dealing with mindset everywhere. So that's a major issue there. But what I was going to say is that one of the things that I've learned from Diallo in Ghana, my brother going to Kenya to invest in teas, which he has paused for now and will go back. He was lucky in that he was dealing with tea farmers who understood the importance and how to process it and had the equipment and what they needed. And so he could probably operate that from a distance. However, if you don't have boots on the ground, production of anything, building a house, whatever it is going to be slowed down and maybe to a halt because people, again, are dealing with their own survival, and your money, if you don't have a trusted person, is not being spent well or spent on the project that you thought it would spend on. The other thing I learned from him is to not accept mediocrity. And so he has had to switch builders too many times for me to count, and switch them until he found someone that he is comfortable with, who has a work ethic that's similar to his, and he can trust and rely on that person, as well as being there day in and day out. You build relationships, and then people, when you're not there, will take over for you. And you can trust that they will do what you expect them to do. And so as that's one of the things that I think that we have to figure out. How do we disperse our time spent there so that we can accomplish the things that we need to accomplish, while at the same time coming back here to make the money that we need to support what we're doing there. It's a lot. But as Cheikh Anta Diop said to a room full of scientists, some were African Americans. Dr. Charles Finch was in the room and often says this. Cheikh Anta Diop said to particularly Africans from America that it's going to be up to you. You all are going to be the ones to come here and make some changes. So we see that happening again on a small, as we say in Ghana, small. But when we stop and connect with each other, find the time to do that, we'll see that we're making an impact. For example, in Ghana, how many Africans born here are chiefs of development in small villages? When you stop and think of, if you really stop and look at it, they're anywhere between 7 and 10 now. And in almost all of their villages, they're building libraries or have built libraries, have dug wells, are doing something. I'm really hoping for a council of chiefs of development that are from here. The Year of Return did something special for Ghana also, where people from different parts of the diaspora are coming together to talk. And it seems to me that the Year of Return for Sierra Leone has made a huge impact in connecting with some of those people whose ancestry is Sierra Leonean, to help build what you're doing there, Brother Biko, would be a really important thing to do.
They have a citizenship, I think it's around April or so every year. Once you've taken that ancestry test, you pretty much can have Sierra Leone citizenship.
Mhm.
Yes, not only, yes, you and it's only with African ancestry, and if you have taken that test, and your DNA shows up with a group that's from Sierra Leone, on a particular trip, and I think they may do it more than once a year, the government will give you a passport and citizenship. So they actually give it to you. So
it's once a year.
Done deal.
But a lot of tour guides have capitalized on that, and they tend to plan their Sierra Leonean trip during that period, and really market it to folks who do have the ancestry result to go. And the ceremonies are usually televised, well publicized as well. And that's the only place on the continent that I would say has a regularized way of repatriation that includes a citizenship.
It's the only country
Sierra Leone?
It's the only country that offers that.
Oh.
Cameroon is thinking about it. I don't know what Ghana is doing with it. Nigeria tried to jump on the bandwagon. However, Sierra Leone right now remains the only country, and it's not tour guides. You have to go through African ancestry in order to get this. And so you have to, the African ancestry does the tour. Other people may take their folks there, but it's connected to African ancestry.
Right. Yeah, I know a couple of folks who they take folks all over the continent, and they always time their Sierra Leonean trip for that period, and they have the people take the African ancestry test. And the ones that are that have that connection to the continent, to that country, they bring them with them, and because they've been doing it for many years, They have relationships with the embassy, with the consulate here, and obviously the government there. So it's sort of, and I think that probably it may take about maybe probably more like 10 years. I think Sierra Leone is going to begin to see something unique and different from that practice, because more and more and more Africans in the diaspora who did not have any other previous connection with the country, all of a sudden, not only are they coming to the country because of this offer by the government, but oftentimes they don't leave without generating or creating some type of connection that brings them back. I know a few folks who have, they'll be given land, or there'll be a lot of opportunities thrown their way to get them to invest. And because, they have that piece of paper saying you are, not only are you of Sierra Leone, or you're, ethnic group that's from Sierra Leone, but you are a Sierra Leonean
Citizen.
citizen, and you have that dual citizenship. It makes it real in a whole other level. And I think that you're going to begin to see Sierra Leone surpass a lot of other countries in terms of the involvement of the diaspora. And, the diaspora is bringing the revolution. So where it's not all good, so there's some bad with that as well.
And then it also depends on the government that's in office. So when the elections happen, it's a little nerve-wracking. Will this program continue? For example, it's under the current president. Will it continue? Has it been legislated beyond the president so that it can continue? I don't know. But those are things to definitely consider.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I don't know. Brother Biko, do you have any insight? Is it a law? I mean, I thought there was a law that was passed, but I may be wrong. Has it been legislated, or is it just something that the current administration is doing?
I believe is legislated, because it's not this current administration. It's been before this current administration.
Is this a new administration?
Yes, there was an election, a couple of months ago. It was contested. The U.S. had some issues with it in regards to transparency. There's a lot of some challenges there. There was even while I was in the country, back in November, early part of December, there was a attempted coup. Gunfire in the streets of Sierra Leone. Again, all because of this issue with the election. And one of the things is that I think international funds are going to more so NGOs and the likes rather than to the government itself. Not in any and every case, but so there's still some issues and some challenges in regards to governance. But yes, I think the ancestry or the citizenship process is something that will stay in Sierra Leone, beyond this current administration. For me, myself, I couldn't really buy land because I'm not a citizen as yet, but you can have the title of the land deeded to a corporation. So through my corporation, it's the holder of the title of the land.
Have you done the African ancestry test, or if not, have you considered it? If not,
yeah, I've considered it. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I have to do, mainly because of the land, as a type of a secondary assurance. I plan to get it done hopefully within the next year.
Yeah, I mean that would be great, because that might be a solution to a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And of course, based on what the results are, but it's definitely worth a try. So I want to get through I know we're gonna run over. I already knew that, but I want to get through a couple of questions with you all before I let you go. our audience is thinning, but the folks are falling asleep, but it's all good. Folks are gonna, this is actually, folks are watching on YouTube and also watching on Facebook. So not everybody's live with us on Zoom.
Okay.
So a couple of things. Which country has the worst drivers? I want to lay that out because that was something that
I don't know. You have to visit each country with some questions in mind, or some observations in mind. I have been to Cote d'Ivoire. When I was in Senegal, I don't think it was that bad. Ghana has gotten better. I remember when Ghana was crazier. And so between Cote d'Ivoire and Guinea, it's like toss a coin.
And Cote d'Ivoire is getting worse every year.
Motos.
More people are moving into the city, and it's just
that was sort of a joke question, but for real. I mean,
can I respond to that too?
Yeah,
I'm the two countries on the continent. That's not Guinea, Ghana and Egypt. And I can tell you by far, Egypt is the worst. I mean, they don't play in Egypt.
Lagos is legendary.
I was gonna say the worst of them all is definitely Lagos.
Is that right?
I mean, there's no real. I mean, not the whole country, but specifically Lagos. Lagos is a beast unto itself. 12-hour traffic is not unheard of. So it's a whole other animal altogether. Because so that was more of a joke question. So I did want to ask, well, how many countries has everybody been to? I'll start with the Torres. How many African countries besides the one you talked about have you traveled to? Have you ever, or how many of them have you been to besides Cote d'Ivoire? Both you and Mom.
We went to.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I went to Tanzania and I stepped one foot in Ghana. Yeah, meaning we crossed the border and turned around and came back to the Ivorian side.
Well, I mean that counts,
So
does the airport count?
I don't see.
Oh, Togo.
I would say no. That's too easy. I would say no.
We traveled.
You have to be outside the
Lomé. Yes.
Okay.
Last trip we were in Lomé.
Yeah, I would say outside the airport is what counts. Anywhere outside the airport.
Okay.
Well, I can say 3: Cote d'Ivoire, Tanzania, and Egypt.
Yeah, but Brother Beacon, what about you?
Well, at least 4. I know Ghana, Gambia, Senegal, and of course Sierra Leone.
Mom McKinney, you spoke a little bit about this, but I'm sure you probably have more on the list.
No, just I think it's 5. Egypt, Ghana a whole bunch of times. Does that count for more than? No, I'm joking. Ghana, Egypt, Senegal, the Gambia. I stepped foot in there, and Cote d'Ivoire. Senegal, I said, yes, 5.
How about you, Bob?
6. Me?
Yeah, you.
I see Mama Nia said 6.
Yeah, she's been there.
6.
I've been. I have to think about that. I've been to. Let me do it systematically. Nigeria, Benin.
Did Nigeria count?
Here's the country. Yes.
I'm teasing.
Let's go on.
So some of this is cheating in a sense, but not really, because I've driven across West Africa. So I've been to several
That could
countries.
be like being in the airport, man.
No, when you get up, when you go out and you go to the mama put to get some food, you've been in that country,
Yeah, you driving, yeah.
legit.
I know.
Right passport. You could
Uh,
go from country to country. I couldn't drive. I want to do that, but I can't do that unless I get visas for all of the countries.
Right. That's the advantage of even though we did last time we did that, me and Mama Nia did that. Yeah, I had to get a passport, not just a visa. Well, now she has a Nigerian passport, but before she had a Nigerian passport,
You have to get
visa, and you have to get a visa. I forget what they call it, a double entry visa, because if you're coming back,
right,
the visa you got to go in expires as soon as you leave, and then you come back. Another visa, which caused a whole issue for us. I think it was in we were in Togo, I think it was, and they made a whole big thing, and we had to pay a bunch of money to get a visa, expedite whatever. Anyway, yeah, but having that ECOWAS passport makes it easier. I mean, I've probably been to I've been to over 10 countries, maybe 18. Just for the first time, I actually went to East Africa. That was like, I've been to Egypt and everything, but I hadn't been to East Africa. I went to Ethiopia recently, so that was great. I got a lot more East African travels for this year planned. So hopefully everything works out.
Okay.
Hey, 3 times in Ethiopia's airport for more than 2 hours should count for something.
I mean, but if you and believe me, they have
wait a minute. She's right. I know. Okay. Well, wait a minute.
That's everybody then.
So Morocco, because I forgot. We had to leave. We were there for 12 hours, so we left the airport.
Okay, there you go. That counts.
Morocco proper for 10 hours at least each time.
That counts. That counts. Near the airport.
Oh, so much. Thank you.
Yes, that absolutely counts. And Ethiopians, they are ready for you to leave the airport. They have a whole industry based on you leaving the airport. I was amazed by the hustle in Ethiopia. I mean, I knew they got hustle in DC, but the hustle in Addis Ababa is a whole other thing. So they're ready for you to leave the airport there. I want everybody to sort of think on this. What is your favorite place on the continent? It could be in the country you talked about, or it could be somewhere else. And what makes that place special to you? That's probably a hard question, but what's your favorite place on the continent, and why is that particular place? And I'm talking about a community, a small geographic area. Why is that place special to you?
Well, I can jump right in and answer that. Because I haven't been to enough places in Guinea to identify a place there that's a favorite for me. I've been up to Senegal only three or four times, so I haven't spent enough time. But Ghana, I really like being in the mountains in Koforidua, in Yami Betire. And I can go there. And some of the reason why I say it's my favorite is because I can get around by myself. I don't need anybody to take me anywhere. I can get around on the Trotro. I can catch a taxi. They won't let me catch a motorbike. So, okay, fine. I won't do that. But yeah, I'm comfortable with that area. Is to me, especially in Yami Betire. And I'm having watched its development. And I know the family. I feel like family. So I can say with ease that place.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro, man. And having that level of comfort is beautiful.
It really is. I love to be where Mama Sala is. I love that area.
Also
Also,
region, yeah.
yes, so that's beautiful. But for sure, I know Kafordria, I know Nyami Betchade, so I wouldn't mind that.
Brother Biko,
You talking about on the continent itself?
on the continent, anywhere on the continent. It could be it could just be the community where you have your your activities and your project and your property, or it could be somewhere else.
Then I'll have to say Magbampo Farm. And in Sierra Leone, the land is it has a backdrop of a mountain at the side of it, which is called the peninsula. And it's like the clouds just come just below the mountaintop. And it's you come out like first thing in the morning, like about 6 o'clock or so, and just I usually take a walk there, and I'll just commune with that mountain from afar. It's just to me beautiful. It's a nice horizon there.
That sounds beautiful. You're gonna have to show it to me, Bob. I gotta see it with my eyes. I can't. My imagination isn't that good. I gotta see it.
Have pictures.
What about you, Bob and Mom? Tori.
I'm split. I'm split because I cannot not say how much I love being in Tafire, the village, which really isn't a village anymore, where Ture grew up. Just being immersed in the community is just, it's hard to describe, but being able to just watch the children, the chickens, the birds, the elders, and how they interact, and just and to know that you are just a part of it, and you're a part of it. They don't, and it's just, it's my favorite place in the Ivory Coast. But I can't not say how magical it was on Zanzibar. Zanzibar, talk about paradise, paradise, paradise. And I just love all of the little bit of Tanzania that I did see. And the people interacting. It's a very completely different vibe from West, from the Ivory Coast, completely.
I've heard that.
I mean, really, really completely. But being able to travel to Zanzibar, that beautiful island, and knowing the history and the legacy is, those two places is hard, hard to not put together,
Yeah, bro. What about you, Baba?
I'm not sure. I really did like Zanzibar, the whole country actually. Tanzania, I really like the whole country. The Zanzibar was special, I guess, in the sense that we were close to the Indian Ocean. Basically, all the rooms basically were close. The rooms were a little. The design was a little strange. Once the ocean side, you could leave it open if you wanted to.
So it felt like you were on your own island.
Exactly.
At the resort that we were at. It was really beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, I've got that Zanzibar on my list. It's definitely a unique place.
Don't stay in or what Stone Town.
Stone Town, yeah. it's a yeah, it's a
We
popular
ventured
site.
out. We ventured way out.
Why not Stone Town?
Stone Town is more
It's a
tourist.
Touristy, yeah,
tourist.
more of a tourist, yeah.
It's like a
Oh,
big
okay.
city.
I
Right.
see.
But
Okay.
So,
it's something you want to go to, but you don't necessarily
Yeah,
stay there.
Yeah.
Mama, we are planning a trip to Tanzania. It'll be our third trip, and we're trying to figure out how to layer in Zanzibar. So I would like to call you, and so I can get some advice on how to do that logistically, how to lay those logistics out, so we can do Dar and Zanzibar.
Well, if you in Dar, Zanzibar is just a little boat ride. I mean, it's a nice little short cruise to the island.
Right, but I mean, just the best places to go in Zanzibar, and how to effectively use our time. I'm going to be traveling with the group, and so
Let me tell you, one of our challenges when we went there, we went there because we were invited to a wedding, and the locals who invited us to their wedding, I kept telling them we want to be able to stay in a Black-owned hotel. We're gonna be spending all this money, bed and breakfast somewhere. We want to, we're gonna be there we were there for 3 weeks or 2, yeah,
No.
almost 3 weeks. It's a lot. Look, they gave us a referral that they said was a friend of the family who was Black. It wasn't no Black, no, Arab.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge that I've been found trying to be able to patronize African people, especially when you're spending all that money. So that's something that you might want to try to figure out how you can do that, because if you're not, most of the time when we're going to Africa, most of the people who are benefiting from our travels are the very people who have us struggling and
yeah.
disenfranchised.
Right. Depending on which country you're traveling to, more so the knobs. Do you know Sister Mayasa? You know Mayasa?
I don't.
No, I'm asking Sister Lydia.
Mayasa, I don't think I know Mayasa.
Okay, I'll give you her information. She has a lot of ties in Tanzania and Zanzibar, and she does at least takes a lot of groups there as well.
Okay, great. And I'd like to exchange information with Mama Toure if possible as
Sure.
well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but y'all can instant message, folks.
I just sent her a message.
Yeah, but I'll send you Sister Mayasa's information. I'll text.
Okay, that's good.
Yes.
So
thank you.
The way we supported the local businesses was not eating at the resorts. We would have the drivers take us to the
where they ate.
exactly. And
Yeah,
they were surprised that we even wanted to do that.
I see.
That's one way we supported the locals.
and that's one thing that maybe Ghana stands apart from that. More so, Nigeria stands apart from that in the sense that as you go from country to country, for instance, especially talking about East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, obviously Egypt. We know what that whole situation is. And then you look at countries like Cote d'Ivoire, Gambia, Senegal. You're less likely to find the larger business establishments that are owned by indigenous people. But when you go to countries like Ghana, and to a greater extent Nigeria, you're gonna have a hard time finding a luxury hotel in Nigeria that's not owned by a Nigerian. You're gonna have a hard time finding a luxury restaurant, a big restaurant or a big club or whatever in Nigeria that's not owned by a Nigerian. And it's, that experience is very different. Nigeria is a very touristy country, but it's all domestic tourism, very little international tourism. So it sort of, also feeds a particular diet in terms of what folks expect. But the good thing is, I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with Nigeria, a lot of things wrong with Nigeria. But the one thing Nigerians do is at least they definitely generate a lot of commerce within the country, especially in the hospitalities. Obviously, we know about entertainment as well, but there's a stark difference if you go from Abidjan to Lagos. It's going to be a whole different experience when you see who owns the establishments that you're staying in. That's just part of the dynamics, and that's the diversity we're talking about in terms of the experiences. But I absolutely agree. I mean, Senegal is one of my favorite countries in the world. The one thing I hate about Senegal is the Senegalese own very little of the country. They don't even own the farms. The Lebanese and so on and so forth own so much, and the local people own very little of the large industries. But that's again that's I think.
And are you talking about specifically in Dakar?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you go into the country, especially all the way up in Tamba, I think you're gonna find something different.
Yeah. That's probably true. That's probably true. But, and of course they tend to concentrate where where they've established themselves. A lot of places are still just getting roads to them, so they're sort of, but they're also being bought up really fast as well. As soon as they extend infrastructure there, the French come in and buy up land and build. I mean, I was in Senegal. It wasn't last year; it was 2 years ago, and I was shocked. We were on the beach, and I saw this massive hotel. It was like a city, and I was like, I mean, I kept walking on the beach, and it's like it's the same hotel. Went around the other side of it. My friend Jacques, who's Senegalese, was taking us around, me and my cousin, and he was like, "This is owned by folks from Colombia." I'm like, wait, Colombians own this hotel?
Colombia. Whoa.
I was like, I didn't see that coming, but Colombians, but there was some money laundering. They were cleaning some of the illicit drug money by buying property in that area, and they built and everybody in that hotel was white. Everybody. The hotel probably held like 1,000 people.
Wow.
And, I mean, it was huge. It was packed. It was limousines going back and forth. It's right. But anyway, that's what you generally see there, especially in the more developed areas. But it is very different when you go to Ghana. I would say to a greater extent when you go to Nigeria.
It's not that different in Ghana if you stay in Accra. I mean, most of the 5- and 4-star hotels in Ghana are not owned by Africans.
Right.
Not owned by Ghanaians. But if you go again to one of my favorite places, Koforidua, there are 2 decent hotels there. I know one is owned by Africans. I'm not sure about the other one yet.
Right. I think you probably see more indigenous establishments, maybe in
Kumasi.
Kumasi. That's what I was. Yeah, Kumasi. You might maybe more going towards Elmina or Akosombo. If you move away from Accra, you definitely will see much more of that.
Elmina though, because that's not it. But okay.
Yeah. But there's definitely and there's definitely a lot of diversity from country to country, what you get with that.
Right.
You know, Brother Biko, you were talking about the exporting of things. A lot of, well, some folks that I know who produce things on the continent will actually label them as being from somewhere else to get, and I'm not suggesting this, but to get other Africans to buy it, including folks in their country, because they believe if it's from Indonesia, if it's from France, whatever. I mean, I've had tailors make clothes for me that I bought the fabric and sewed, and they put a label in there like it was made from England. I'm like, wait a minute, you just made this. Why you got a label? What's going on? You know, but unfortunately, it's that mentality that but I do believe that we're working through it. I do believe that as the decades go on, you're seeing less and less and less of that because Africans are beginning to reconnect. It's like Sankofa on the continent, right? We're beginning to reconnect with ourselves, even on the continent, you know, by the fact that our diasporan family is showing us a mirror, is putting a mirror to our face, a mirror we probably, you know, didn't even know was there, you know, and
Hey,
we're
I got
seeing
a
ourselves in a different
story
light.
I
You said,
want
well,
to share about fabric, about clothing.
Bimbo.
So the last time we went home, not this last year, but before that, Baba had 3 suits made, 3 very nice suits. And I told him, okay, so we need to tell him what kind of embroidery to put on it. And he disagreed and said, I want them to be creative. They can put whatever they want. Like, no, you don't want them to do that. You want to tell them. So we argued about it, and like I said, okay, all right, fine. What he ended up with, 3 very nice suits. Very nice suits, a brown one, a black one, and a navy blue one. But the embroidery looked like it belonged on a beach tote bag. I mean, it was like, what? He couldn't wear it. And so on the trip back, we forgot to bring, he said he was gonna take them back and see if they could do anything with it. And I mean, the embroidery is all down. So we went back to him, and this time we told him, you know, he got 3 suits from you last time. They were made fantastic, but the embroidery, and we got it. I think he got the stuff the day before we were leaving, or the day, so it wasn't enough time to do anything with it or make any changes or anything. And it's embroidery, you know, it's embroidery. So, but I told him, you know, so now he's ready to get my suggestions. So I suggested some Adinkra symbols. And I pulled out my phone and I showed the tailor the designs and stuff. They were so impressed with the final. They were like the sister who was showing him his stuff was taking pictures of everything. So like, and I said, whoa, copyright.
Right. They're gonna copy it, all right.
We laughed about it, but one of the guys there spoke English, and we started talking, and he said, "Don't worry, sister, I'm gonna teach him." Because I was saying, see, this is the kind of stuff you need to be putting on, you know, your garments and suggesting to people, not, you know, just like anything. It should mean something. And it should be cultural. And he said, yeah, don't worry, I got you. And, you know, I'm going to teach him. I'm going to show him. And he started telling me his background and history and stuff. And he knew some stuff, and he knew what Sankofa meant. So our conversation went from there. So like, that's an example of, now that tailor shop is going to be doing stuff with these brothers and putting stuff on it that actually means something, and it's African culture.
Yeah, bro, and that's the beautiful influence that we can have. I wanted to close out by First of all, thanking all of you all for sharing so openly. I'm saying that this is a conversation. I think we probably needed this conversation as much as the audience did. And it's good for us to network with each other from time to time as well. And are there ways that people can get, or you like folks to connect with either the community that you're connected with, or the work you're doing in the community? Is there a particular link or phone number or website or anything of that sort that folks who want to get maybe even more information, or want to get involved, or want to contribute, or want to hire in whatever way that you would like folks to do, you can actually talk about it, or you can put it in the chat as well, because we want folks to who want to engage to be able to do that and get more involved. I'm gonna share this. I think let me see if I think I sent this. I think I have a picture of the institute.
And Kalacia, while you keying that up, I know Mama Lydia Curtis, she gets an ad in the Kwanzaa guides. So if anybody have the Kwanzaa guide that we put out, you can contact her about her trips to East Africa. When is your next trip, Mama Lydia?
So we are going in July. We are working with a cohort of teenagers, teaching them, looking at a lot of things through a social justice lens, and giving them a more of an awareness of the African diaspora. And we are going to go to the Mbasini village, which is in the foothills of Mount Moreau, where Pete and Charlotte O'Neill have established a center, and we will stay with them.
Nice.
We will stay with them for 4 days, and then we will venture out from there.
Good.
Yes. And it is open. Anybody else who wants to go can go. But they would be they have to understand that, July 23rd. Oh. Yeah. And we'll be there for 2 weeks, but they will be joining a small cohort of teenagers. And we've done that before. We've had intergenerational, and it's worked out well.
Right.
Yeah.
Give thanks. Is this Biko's business here?
Yeah, but you want to share about the this is part of the initiative that you have. You want to share about that and how folks, and I see there's some contact information as well. You want to share a little bit about how folks can get involved in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously this is sacred, a couple of the obviously these are just graphics, but these are some of the projects that we're looking to do in Sierra Leone. We have a crowdfunding campaign that we're doing this for the next couple of months. You can go to My Source of Wellness. It says it right here, mysourceofwellness.com, and go to give, and let's see if we can get some of these projects off the ground. Also, those is really an opportunity also for young people here who may be looking for a study abroad or a gap year, who wants to jump into a place like Sierra Leone and see how it is. I know you have like Peace Corps and those places that are going in, but we have to really create opportunities for young people within our community to also drop in places like Sierra Leone and Ghana, and likewise to actually see some of these projects. I tell my university students that if I was 25 years old, and have the extent that I have in social entrepreneurship, I would really jump into Africa and spend some time really looking at some of the opportunities we can work with the community and solve some of those issues, but also have a business component as well. So again, this right, these are some of the projects. And again, My Source of Wellness is www.mysourceo of wellness, wellness.com. And help us, with a donation so we can get some work done in the Magbampo village.
Yeah, but I shared that in the chat as well. So again, thank you all for being willing to share with us. This has been great conversation, a lot of great information, great insight. Thank those of you who are joining us on Zoom, those on Facebook, those on YouTube, and definitely connect. Africa is not it's not Narnia, it's not a fantastic place that is fantasy. It's a real place with real people. And we need to connect with those real people because we are key to the revolution. We are in the midst of it. We need to be part of it. We need to be engaged in it. And again, thank you all for joining us, and everybody have a great night. We have a brief announcement. Great weekend. We have a brief announcement about next month's workshop, which will be on the 3rd Friday in April, Baba and Mama.
Yeah, April 19th, we'll be addressing the epidemic of violence in the Black community, locally and nationally. And we'll be addressing the root causes, symptoms, and solutions, 7 p.m. And one thing that I wanted to incorporate in this forum is to get the community involved in a survey. And I wanted people to send in their solutions, their what do they think the causes of this violence is, so we could kind of put this information together and hopefully make some sense as to what we can do to address it on a real practical manner. So if you're online with us tonight, please, if you can, send us your root causes of violence and your solutions to us. Kalasia, how could they best send that to us?
They can send an email to ubcndc@yahoo.com.
Yeah, ubcndc@yahoo.com.
Which is the same email you probably got the link from to join tonight.
And I also want to mention real quick, Mama Madonna, she gave us one good idea. I think it was a Peels workshop, I believe, with the Africa town. Was that last week? Were you on Mama Madonna? I know you were on some Zoom when you made a comment about giving books to our people. And I've been advocating that as well. But when you said it, I said, a light bulb went off in my head. I said, man, that's something we got to promote throughout, giving books to our people. Even though we might not think that person will read the book, give it to him or her anyway, on birthdays, holidays, special days, and on just any occasion. Just, hey, here's a book, man. And you'd be surprised. They might pick it up one day and it might transform their whole life. So that's one little idea that I gotten the other day. So, but we want additional information, y'all, from the community now on serious, causes and recommendations for what can we do to reduce the level of violence in our community among our people. We can do it. So that's next month, April 19th.
Yeah, and look out in your email for how to join that program as well. So thank you, everyone. It's went a little bit late.
Good night.
But you all stuck in there. Thank you all.
Good night.
Everybody have a good night, and thank you all for joining us.
Hey, give thanks, man. This was a wonderful presentation, man. I really enjoyed this, man. I learned a lot, so it's great.